is tier list time again, and we're looking at 2023 albums again. There was already a video on this back in like May, I think it was, end of April-ish time, looking at the first quarter of the year for big releases and significant releases ranked nicely in the tier list. So if you haven't seen that one already, please go check that one out, because there's plenty of albums on that one. And now this time we're looking from since then to now, with all of the releases being put out. Well, as many as I possibly can. I'm not going to put out every single release, that would take forever, but ones that I think are worth talking about, ones that I've already talked about before, but ones that I haven't spoken about, and you're getting some fresh new opinions on here. So yeah, please check out the list in the description. You can make your own tier list and send it to me over on Twitter, Instagram, whatever you follow me on. That would be great. And tell me your thoughts on my tier list in the comments too. And also check out my Patreon as well, as you can subscribe to me on there. You can be part of the Discord server, and you can request videos like this in the future. So yeah, there's no point wasting any more time. You know the premise. We're going to rank them nicely in the tier list. Yeah, let's go. Hope you enjoy. Okay, pretty good one to start with here. Addison Rae, because it's just come out recently as of recording. It's quite a significant one to talk about here as well, because she is going to be probably the next big thing in the next year or so, I think, because this EP demonstrates that she's very much a certified pop girly, really. But yeah, it's very on the nose pop. It's very bubbly. It's very fun. It's catchy. The lyrics definitely do leave a lot to be desired in places, but in terms of what she's bringing to the table, I think she's got something to her, you know. The Charlie XX feature is pretty good too. It's a fun little EP, nice introduction to who she's going to become. I thought it was alright, but we may as well keep going with some of the bigger releases though, because Travis Scott is going in very good. Talked about this in a full review already. One of the biggest events of the year. Quite exciting to see such an album take the world by storm in that way, because it had felt quite quiet for a while in terms of big releases, and especially in the hip hop department too. We were having a pretty quiet year for big releases for sure. But yeah, you know, a lot of the criticisms that are coming his way I think are very valid. He's very much just becoming a bit of a backseat driver, I guess you could call him, in regards to how his features sometimes overshadow him, how he's not really rapping about anything particularly interesting. There's a lot of artists in his lane that are similar though, but Travis now is hitting a point where he's quite a few albums in and he still hasn't really got like a narrative. He hasn't really got a position, I don't think, in terms of his writing. So I definitely get the criticisms, but in terms of what it sounds like, it's a really good sounding album. The features are great. Definitely runs on too long by the end. Some of the tracks towards the end are weak as hell, but there's some of his best work for me here as well, like My Eyes, Hyena. The first track is great. I Know, I absolutely love that one. So yeah, I think it's very good overall. Addy Oasis, let's keep going. Excellent tier. Nope, a bit too high. Excellent tier. I feel like this one was going to catch a bit more fire than it actually did. I feel like the neo soul heads have dropped the ball with this one, because this is probably the best neo soul album I think I've heard all year, and yet I'm seeing very few people talk about it. I've already given it a review. That didn't seem to do much for the album either, to be honest. I think it's great. I think she's very zany, she's wacky, she's quirky with her voice. She writes a bit weak in places, but I think she makes up for it for the fact that so much of this album is really strong, it's really catchy, it's really melodic. Yeah, it's great stuff, this album, man. I want to mention Aluna next, actually. Just going to keep going in order. This is really good stuff. This is one of the best like dance pop releases of the year. It is so bossy and commanding and just rhythmic. It's really, really good. Honestly, some days I'm thinking, should it be an excellent? I haven't done a full review of it yet. I might go back to it just to solidify my thoughts, because I had a really good time with this, man. Seriously, anyone that just wants some pure banging dance pop anthems, you gotta give this one a listen. And while we're on the topic of like dancey pop stuff, may as well mention Carly Rae Jepsen. Oh, that has gone too high again. Yeah, Carly Rae Jepsen, Loveliest Time. Feel as though she has once again proven that her B-sides are just better than the A-sides, because I don't think The Loneliest Time was very good at all. Talking to Yourself was great, but much of that album was just pretty so-so. But this time around with this one, she's trying totally new stuff for her. Collage, which sounds like Kali Uchis. Friggin' Psychedelic Switch, which is like bordering on house. It's really good stuff, this album. Like, yeah, sure, some weaker moments, particularly towards the end, but like, god damn, she killed it on this one, man. So good. Going on to another big release now. I just feel like I keep doing this to Ed Sheeran, don't I? Every time I speak about Ed, I'm just always saying he's not very good. To be fair to him, this is probably one of his best albums in quite a few years, which sounds really harsh because I've put him in the meh tier. But it's just really mundane. Like, I hate sounding like this because it probably sounds pretentious, but I do have to say I feel bad for people that think this is like peak singer-songwriter music. I know it sounds super pretentious, and I really try hard not to sound like that on this channel. But seriously, man, like, if this is the best singer-songwriter stuff you've ever heard, I can't help but feel like you're missing out so badly, because he just does the bare minimum. It's simple acoustic guitar plucking, maybe a bit of piano comes in every now and then. He writes really simply. His voice is just like fine. Like, honestly, his voice is just fine. Like, he is not a top tier singer at all by any means, and I will die on this hill. And yeah, he just manages to get number one hits every single time with his albums. Number one albums, huge sales, and he's probably one of the most mundane singer-songwriters of the past 10 years. It's crazy. Like, there's no way you're telling me like this is better than a Sufjan Stevens. Like, seriously, man. God. Also, controversially, I'm going to put Amaarae in the meh tier too. I know this one has been catching a bit of fire this year, particularly for like R&B albums. I get it. There's something to what she's doing, but like, it just didn't click. And I don't know what it is with me. I can't figure out what it is. It just didn't click. So I'm just going to leave it there. I can't really speak too much on that one. Arlo Parks definitely dropped a better album compared to her last one, even though the last one I think won the Mercury Prize, but this one's definitely better than that one. Some really good tracks on this one. Really like the sort of pop direction she's taken some of the songs in. Some really cool stuff there from her. Avenged Sevenfold, going to be the first bad on this whole list. I definitely think what they were trying to do was admirable, though, for sure. Like, I'm not going to be too negative on this, because I definitely felt as though I was hearing a band try something a little different. They were trying to be a bit more theatrical and a bit more, you know, bigger with what they were approaching, but it just sounded awful. It really didn't sound great at all in places, so that's just not for me. I'm going to mention Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel. I've been renowned for being pretty harsh on Billy, actually. I definitely think, compared to what a lot of people seem to say about him, doesn't align at all with my beliefs. I think he's all right. Like, I don't see this amazing rapper everyone else sees, to be honest with you. Like, in terms of what he writes, it's fantastic, but his delivery is just the same every time. And he raps over such similar beats so often as well. But I will say they definitely found some new ways to present his style on this one. The beats were definitely shaking things up a little bit. And when I say that, by the way, I don't include that More Mother album, because that was probably the most unique thing he's ever been a part of. But everything else aside from that is just like the same rinse and repeat for me. I don't get it with Billy. But this one definitely had some varied production, was more engaged with what he was rapping over compared to some of his other releases. But still, for me, it ain't going that much higher than decent. Leray, contender for worst album of the year. I truly mean what I say when I say that, because that was just awful. She is just the most annoying artist in terms of like picking out the most obvious samples just for like nostalgia bait. Like, there's a lot of bad sampling going on at the moment. We're literally just seeing all of it all over TikTok. It's easy, it's a quick fix, it's a quick, you know, baity song to go viral, to pick out some random little snippet of an old song to just include it. Like, it's everywhere. Every bloody charting song seems to be sampling something else, and it's gotten so lazy. And Leray is like the bottom of this list when it comes to one of the worst out there, because this is atrocious. Like, she put no effort into this at all. Definitely a contender for being one of the worst albums of the year. I'm going to skip ahead though to Janelle Monae. I want to mention this one. I actually think this album got a little bit of harsh flack, honestly. Like, it's definitely her worst, but Janelle at her worst is still quite interesting with how she was like kind of choosing some newer sounds to sing over, and it was still pretty catchy and still pretty ear-grabbing to me. Like, melodically, some of these tracks were really sweet on the ears. The way the album just like rolls into one another with every track, I thought was really creative as well. That was an underrated aspect of the album too. People did not appreciate how much effort was put into these transitions from track to track. Lipstick Lover is still terrible though, but everything else I thought was actually pretty good. Right, not one people have really spoken about next, but I did want to mention DC the Don. His voice at times is a little annoying, but there were some really good moments on this album. Like, he was attempting some synth pop 80s stuff and it really paid off. Like, seriously, some great tracks, really catchy, fun tracks on this album, but the overall product was just fine. Disclosure, I'm going to put in very good. Kind of came and went, this one. I will be one of those people that says that thing about albums, which I always find to be quite harsh, but this one really did feel like it came and went. They've not quite got the same power that they once had in the early 2010s, where every song they dropped was like charting at #1 in the UK, and they deserved it as well. Like, that first album is so brilliant, and I don't think they've ever quite made anything on that level, but I like this one in the sense that they just kind of wanted to just be a bit different and wanted to kind of just go more into like the things that made them who they were. Like, there's garagey tracks on this, there's drum and bass tracks on this. I liked how they just kind of stuck to their roots on this one. Didn't really have like big features, and it actually ended up being probably their second best release to date. I think this was better than Energy and also better than the previous album, which I'm forgetting the name of right now, but it will probably come to me. So yeah, I enjoyed this one quite a bit. Feeble Little Horse though, nah, I don't get this one, man. I don't get this shit. No. Right, Foo Fighters. I'm gonna put it at the top of this. Actually, this is like one of their best in years, and that is a compliment to Foo Fighters because they're consistently dropping releases every like 2 or 3 years. But seriously, no, like, this is the best one they've dropped in such a long time. Like, the last few albums for me have just felt like them really running out of steam. But as sad as it is, the influence of, you know, Taylor's death has really like brought out a new side to them. Like, there was some really, really interesting sound ideas on this album, and lyrically these tracks were superb as well. It's just such a shame that something so horrible influenced this album, really. But yeah, really impressed with what they were doing on this one. Very, very happy with it. Probably their best since Wasting Light. Like I say, that's a compliment though, because Wasting Light was 12 years ago. That's a long time, and they're still at it today, dropping releases that are absolutely worth your time. Yeah, this was really, really good. I gotta say, Geese though, Geese, my friends, killed it on this one. This is a great album. So happy with this. Again, bringing out the obvious sort of sounds that we're hearing in post-punk at the moment. There's so many bands that are flooding this market, and I'm kind of eating it up every single time. I'm not going to lie to you. Really, I'm just falling for it every single time because, yeah, this was so good. This was so good. Really enjoy the vocalist. He's weird. He's like a David Byrne on steroids. Like, he's so out of it and all over the place. And yeah, really happy with this. You know what? Let's keep going though, because I've got a few great albums that are going to come in a row now. Really happy with the George Clanton album. Really excellent stuff here. Oh Rap IR is nearly as good as Slide, I think. I think Slide is still better for me. That one just connects to me somehow in a way that I haven't really found much music in that style do, like the chill wave sort of stuff. But this album's, you know, easily in conversation for being as good as that one. It's so good. Really love I've Been Young. One of his best songs ever. So happy with the kind of baggy style that's coming out in some of these tracks as well. It's super cool to see that. Yeah, I love it. Glaive as well. This is controversial somehow. But yeah, I think this is one of the best albums of the year too. Just as a reminder, by the way, if it's like in the excellent or above tier, you know, you're talking great stuff. Like, you're talking year-end list stuff. Just in case you weren't aware. I'm sure you would be aware though. But yeah, Glaive, this album got dunked on. People aren't really keen on it. I think there'll be some revisionism on this in a couple of years though. I think people will look back on this, particularly a lot of artists doing what Glaive is doing right now, this kind of like digicore, emo, pop type stuff. I really think a lot of people will come round to it. You know, someone like Breakance, I think, has definitely got a huge career ahead of him, and I think again people will look back on some of his stuff and revise it too, because I think there is something there. And Glaive, yeah, I mean, going a bit more poppier than his other release, I guess, but I don't really see why people were bashing on this because of that. I guess if you just don't like this style in general, or you're not going to like this album, fair enough. But yeah, I love this. I have no shame in saying that. And the first contender of this list is going to go to James Ivy, which is an EP, but I am loving it as much as I am an album. So I'm putting this here because there aren't really many others I can put there with this crop of albums for this list. But yeah, love this, man. This is so good. James Ivy has just had me locked in this year with this one. I played it so much. Compared to other EPs, I've played this so much more than anything else really ever from an EP. I don't know what it is about it, but it just is so well put together. It's so catchy. It's so anthemic. All the songs just feel so powerful in how they're presented. It's brilliant. It's so good. There's so much emotion to his voice too. He's great. He's captivating. Yeah, I love this. Definitely going down as one of the best of the year for me. The Wailer, I thought this was good. This was really good. Some cool like emo indie rock type stuff. Not a great deal to say on it, to be honest. It's been a while since I heard it, I will say that, admittedly. But yeah, I'm putting it in very good. I want to recommend that. Very much like a Pitchfork 7.8 type album. I don't know if they did give it a 7.8, but it's very much in that kind of vein, I'll tell you that. Japanese House, was super impressed with this one. Some really great tracks on there. Really like the Japanese House. I think I said a bit of a hot take, but like compared to the Boy Genius crew, I think she's putting out better music than they are individually and collectively. It's very similar to that. I just think she has a slightly better voice than some of the others, and some of the sort of synthy pop stuff is way more interesting on the ears too. I really like her. Jason Isbell is going on the excellent tier. It's so cool to see, I've said this already, but so far into his career, he's still finding really interesting things to write about. Like, it is so good to see. Jason is one of the best songwriters of our time. I will say that and die on that hill too. Another one, by the way, you should be listening to over friggin' Ed Sheeran, because he's so much better at writing. He's a much better singer. And yeah, it probably falls more into like the country side of things, but doesn't really matter. It's brilliant. Karol G. This is some like banging Latin pop stuff, man. I was super impressed here. If you're a fan of Rosalia and you've not bothered listening to this, I'm going to bump it up actually. Quite a few places. Yeah, if you're a fan of Rosalia and you've not bothered listening to this, seriously, check it out. Check it out. Also realising now that Aluna should be higher. But yes, Killer Mike. I don't know what you were doing here, bro, but this ain't interesting stuff. You definitely go higher than Ed Sheeran, though. But yeah, I just found it really bland. Like, so much hip-hop coming out this year, right? And it's just, I didn't include it on here, but the Mick Jenkins album too. I don't know what's going on, but everything just feels so derivative. We're just hitting a point where so many rappers are just dropping albums and they're just not really doing enough with the production. They're not really doing enough with their flows. I don't know what's going on. My brain is just trying hard to comprehend what is happening, but I didn't really get the Killer Mike album. I just didn't get it, man. I just didn't really feel like any of it stood out. The beats, like when you think of Killer Mike, particularly like in his 2012 days when he did the rap music album, like the beats were so varied, colourful, they banged really hard, and all of that just got stripped away on this one, and it's just not very interesting. I don't really don't really get it, to be honest, man. Yeah, really disappointing stuff. Lewis Capaldi, who put that there? Who put Lewis Capaldi there? Oh God! Oh, it's an album of the year contender. I'm not lying. Right, Lil Uzi Vert. I'll be honest with you when I say I only give this one listen. I couldn't find the energy to sit through it multiple times. It was creative. It was diverse for sure, but yeah, it needs another listen, but I couldn't really sit with it and enjoy it, honestly. I struggled with some of the tracks, like the Chop Suey cover, which garnered a lot of controversy. Brave that Uzi tried that, but it just sounds shit. Like, I don't know what to say, man. Yeah. Anyway, some great ones on the way again. Laurey, McKenna, kind of maybe a little bit better than Jason Isbell. Like, I love that Jason Isbell album, but maybe I like the Laurey a little bit more. I don't know, I just like where they're both at in their careers. They're both just so wise. They're both so interesting. They are easily some of the best country artists in the game right now. It's hilarious to see this renaissance of country music on the Billboard. And it's like Morgan Wallen, Jason Aldean, and that random guy who basically was non-existent before that song even came out. I can't even think of what his name is. Oliver Anthony or something. And like these two like clear all of those by like a country mile. Excuse the pun, but none of those are, you know, close to being in the charts. It's crazy. Anyway. Love Laurey McKenna. Love McKinley Dixon. Putting this pretty high up, actually. This is, in fact, I'm going to put it there. This is, for me, the best rap album of the year. Like, I know I was just saying quite a lot of rap albums that aren't really doing it for me at the moment. It's having a bit of a dry spell, but McKinley Dixon is one to watch because this was so good. I mean, the album from a few years ago was good too, but like this one, the production, the way he's rapping, it came together so perfectly. It's super short too. It doesn't overstay its welcome. I love this, man. So good. So bloody good. Really impressed with this Memorrhage album. I guess it's like Hemorrhage, but change it to like Memorrhage. I'm going to put it quite high, actually. Maybe about there. Yeah, about there. In fact, Carly probably could go there. Yeah, that makes sense. But Memorrhage, kind of like blending some metalcore elements with like new metal. Honestly, I saw the genre tags. I was like, well, I don't know about this. But seriously, don't be taken for a ride by seeing new metal and thinking it's not going to be good. Really, really good. Okay, we're kind of at the last leg now. Let's see if I can do all of this in one recording. Mike Dean, this was so hollow. Like, I couldn't believe this was the guy that's like produced for The Weeknd and other artists too. This album was so hollow. It just sounded so, I can't, it just sucked the life out of me. It truly sucked the life out of me. I just never wanted to have to speak about it. Neggy Gemmy is how I think you say the name. Putting this one really high, by the way. Honestly, another sleeper album, this one. Like, seriously? This was super creative. It had, like, bubblegum bass elements. It had some really creative, like, cool electronic elements coming through. And it was so good. Like, it was super, super good. Seriously, really impressed with this. Again, flying massively under the radar. But I think there's a lot of potential for people to love Neggy Gemmy. It's how I think you say it. I don't know. Neggymmy. Take it for how you will. I think it's Neggy Gemmy. Noname was fine. Kind of bordering on meh to decent, honestly. I think the fact that still it sounds like her other stuff makes it at least good. But the fact that it sounds like her other stuff made it pretty disappointing. And I've already spoken about the bloody J Electronica thing, which was a huge letdown. Not really surprising that she was so flippant about it, though. If you've been following her on Twitter since like 2018-19 and you were surprised by the way she handled all that, you're kind of naive, because she's always been like that, let's be honest, man. But even regardless, the album itself just felt like a a copy and paste of what we've heard before, and it just wasn't quite as inviting and as warm to listen to. Because Telephone and Room 25 are super really low-key, warm albums that you just feel like are kind of there for you in a lovely way. But this one just lost that spark for me. Opus Kink, though, this was wild. This was wild. I'm going to put this quite high, actually. It has like all the elements you'd expect in post-punk music at the moment. Again, another band that are doing similar things to a lot of those sort of windmill acts. But then you add on this blaring saxophone that just takes these tracks into like blistering, insane levels that just blow your head off. It was such a cool listen. Seriously up there with one of my favourite EPs of the year. It's pretty long for an EP though. I think it's like touching like 30 something minutes. But yeah, really good stuff. I was disappointed to see the response to this Paris, Texas album. Oh, we're gonna have to shift things around a little bit. But yeah, a lot of people really seem to be quite negative about this Paris, Texas album. But I thought it was good. It kind of like feels like they're taking the elements of like your indie rap acts from the 2010s, namely like a Brockhampton, I guess, and just kind of expanding on that sound and being a bit more creative with it, bringing it into a bit more of a newer sound for the genre. I was pretty impressed with it. I thought it was cool. It reminded me of like Gene Dawson in places as well, actually, which is a great compliment because I love Gene Dawson. So it's got that kind of like energy, that youthful spirit, really, really oozing. I liked it. I thought it was good. I definitely preferred it to that Group Therapy album, which I guess is occupying a similar lane with kind of like indie hip hop groups emerging. I thought that was quite a bit better than that one. So yeah, Podder Payper, got to mention him. This album cover looking like Anthony Fantano trying to do the Floss album cover, man. Like, seriously, it looks so similar to Injury Reserve's Floss, but also the guy looks like Anthony Fantano. It's pretty funny. Yeah, really like this as well. UK rapper at the moment, has quite a bombastic energy. Every track kind of did a similar thing, so it kind of fell short from being excellent or something like that, but was very impressed. Squid, speaking of all these post-punk acts, Squid are going in there. I just really struggled to like remember much from it. I listened to it about 3 times, maybe 4, and very little retained. I thought their first album was like the opposite of that, where everything just stuck with you. The wackiness, the zaniness, the weirdness, the inventiveness. And then this album just sucked all that away. I don't know, it just really didn't stick with me. Suzanne Sunfor really has gone under the radar again with another album, but it was really lovely. It just didn't stand out in the ways that her other ones do. I was definitely, for a Suzanne album and a big fan of hers, I think I expected it to stick with me better than it did, but it's still a very good album. And she's a beautiful vocalist, by the way. Please check out Suzanne. The National going straight up in bad. I just find them so boring, man. I feel really bad saying it every time the National get brought up, but they just don't stick with me at all. They're just super, like, mundane. I keep using this word, but their sound is just so mundane. There's very little that sticks with you. I don't even think as a vocalist he's that strong. Like, I think if his voice was stronger, these songs would make more sense because he'd be carrying how slow moving they are. But the fact that he is quite a stiff singer, it just makes the songs feel like they go on forever. I don't know. I'm just not really with the National. I've said it before. And finally closing out with a great album, which is great to finish off on. Young Fathers. These didn't get included in the first video I did of this. So this album's actually a bit delayed because it was in the first quarter of the year. But for some reason, I just forgot about them. And it didn't make it onto the list. But it's grown on me since then, so it's quite good that I've ended up including them now. Because it would have been very good before, but it's jumped into excellent now because it's one of my favourite albums of the year. Really love how euphoric and anthemic they are. Really love how weird they are with tracks like Rice. It's so fun. They're just so good. One of the best UK acts at the moment for sure. And that is my list. That is my tier list. It is completed. Of course, there will be albums I missed and there'll be EPs I missed. I'm sure you'll be saying in the comments, what about this? What about that? And yeah, I can't include everything. This video would go on for like 3 hours if I did. But Please comment below what you think of my tier list here, how you'd have it. Place your own tier list and send it to me. And yeah, tell me some albums I should be checking out in case they've been missed off here. Tell me what I should review next. And I guess, yeah, that's it. It's done. There's nothing else for me to say apart from subscribe. Don't get mad at me. Please be happy with what I've done here. And have a good day. Please make your own. Send it to me. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye.